Up in Minneapolis. Thanks for joining our webinar this morning. Today we're going to talk about the future of intelligent communications, which is the fifth of a six-part series. Basically, lying in the background of SIP and SIP technology. And our presenter today is Jim Sevelier, as it has been previously. Jim has done a great job pulling this together and making it understandable for people like myself. So I want to introduce him and future intelligent communications. I'm going to work through this slide here and then turn it right on over to Jim. So Voice and Data Networks is sponsoring this. We sponsor these kinds of things because we want to get thought leadership into the industry and help our customers have thought leadership through the kinds of concepts that we bring them so that they're able to do their jobs a little bit better, a little bit more efficiently, and certainly more knowledgeably. Voice and Data was started in 1994. We are profitable. We've been out there 17 years. We're not embroiled in debt. We have a customer service focus, and we're into communication. And that does not just mean phone systems. It means communications, and we've done it. We've done a nice job there. We are nationally based. We operate with clients all over the country, and I know most of you are from all over the country. We're an Avaya business partner. We do Meru wireless, life-size video teleconferencing, and most of the other ancillary products that have to do with communication. At VDN, we not only provide the products, but we are very focused on services, including maintenance as an ANI, and implementation, move, add, change, single point of service. We call that single point support. Managed services is a growing part of our practice, and we're very, very excited about that. The communications technologies we choose to address ourselves to are on the next line: IP telephony, Ethernet switching, enterprise wireless, disaster recovery, unified messaging. All those things we consider communications technologies, and we apply ourselves to it. Those are some of our clients, and our list continues to grow. We are growing in this market, and very, very happy to be doing so. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Sevelier. And if you could take us off and show us an extremely fun 40 minutes, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joe, and welcome everybody to this fifth in a series of six SIP series, demystifying the carrier buzz around SIP. And actually, this is going to be one of the elements that we'll be able to get into and sink our teeth into a little bit more. I know there was a lot of technology up front, and we'll go over what we've covered so far. But today, specifically, we're going to talk about SIP interoperability and the future of intelligent communications, because I think there's a lot of questions out there. Again, what can I do with SIP, and how can I sell SIP within my organization, within, to non-technical people that have control over the purse strings? How can I help my company grow and deliver the message and the value of SIP up the chain of command? So you're going to get a lot of interesting comments and suggestions and strategies, and again, hopefully the whole goal here from this series is to give you a complete understanding from beginning, middle, and end as to what SIP can do and how it can benefit your organization. So if we pull the screen back a little bit, so far what we've really talked about was SIP's ability to help you take control of what is a growing multi-vendor network. And it does that, SIP does that by providing some interoperability standards that transpose themselves across multi-vendors and across multi-vendor platforms. So you could actually, with SIP, finally put manufacturer A's telephone to manufacturer B's server. Or you could put manufacturer's A application, desktop application, and have it communicate to manufacturer B's telephone switch. So there's a lot now that SIP does, and we learned that in part 1 of this. Part 2, we really got into the nitty-gritty. We really talked about how SIP makes calls. What are the elements? We talked about proxies and registrars. We talked about sprints and pints. We talked about connecting back into the old world, right? Back into the existing world of the public switch telephone network. We talked at length about that. And we also talked about how to make communications more simple and more efficient. And really, if I'm going to go back to today's topic about the future, that is really the future right there. More efficient communication. I mean, in a nutshell, if there was a discussion that I was going to have about the inevitability of SIP, that SIP is not only a tool for today, but it is the only tool or the tool moving forward to get us over the next technological hurdle, right? The next hump, if you will, of regarding technology, it would be the simplification piece. And you can see that not only in communications, but you can see it in other areas of technology. You see servers that are consolidating and they're coming together, virtualizing multiple servers, overlaying multiple server applications onto a single server appliance, right? So you got consolidation going on. You've got cloud services. You've got access to applications through the internet rather than having the application on top of your desktop. All of these types of services are making it simpler for us to communicate. And it's making it simpler for IT and technologists to put together a more cost-effective solutions for business, right? So if I have to deploy, 150 licenses of Microsoft Exchange or 150, instances of Microsoft onto, 150 different laptops, that takes time, that takes energy, and that isn't as efficient as utilizing a browser tool and gaining access to those applications through, like Microsoft Web Apps. So there's a lot of different things that we can do now, but SIP is sort of that overarching umbrella, if you will, that can touch each of these technological elements because it has a user agent. It has code. If you remember that in part 2, we talked about this little piece of code that sits in anything electronic, and it uses IP-based communications to transport. So here's this piece of SIP code, and it can sit in anything electronic. So now we've got the means of adding presence, and that's what part 3 was about. Now we can add intelligence. We can now look ahead before the call, before the connection request is being made, and we can actually choose to do something different. And then specifically, we can actually take that element and actually integrate it into applications like Microsoft Link or inside of a CRM application, a customer relationship management application, or maybe inside the call center. And then finally, we talked about what the carriers are doing to support SIP and the cost basis that they're providing for us to make this migration from traditional technologies. And specifically, I talked about a specific date and time, December 21st in 2009, where the carriers made a proposal to the FCC to deregulate the public switch telephone network. Now, so when we talk about making things simpler, working in a multi-vendor environment, adding intelligence, when we add that element of carrier support, when we add that element of, hey, we are no longer going to be analog or digital. We're going to be broadband communications, and that's not only a corporate directive. That's not only a carrier directive. It is now a governmental directive. So we're seeing that the federal government is getting on board with helping businesses simplify by giving them the bandwidth necessary to put applications up in the cloud, to make these servers consolidated and have the bandwidth access necessary in order to communicate across city, state, maybe even continents, right? So the whole idea here is that truly the future of intelligent communications starts with each one of these 4 pieces. So if we look at our first poll, one of the questions that I would really like to get your responses is what you see as the primary business goal for SIP. Now understand, in the past we've done a lot of these polls, and a lot of these things have had like a correct answer and then an incorrect answer. There's no incorrect answer here. What I'm really trying to do now is actually poll the audience for what you guys believe to be the primary business goal that you see that SIP is going to play for your organization. So, so Patty, I'm going to let you help me understand the, when we completed that poll and what the responses were. That would be great.
Yeah, we'll give another 15 seconds or so for everyone to participate.
And again, just select the one thing that you believe to be the primary goal for SIP, the business goal for SIP. And again, it could be any of these, but what I'm really trying to do is also validate as I'm presenting, making sure that I focus in on the elements that obviously have the most concern to you guys today. So, and I know we got a large number of people on this call, but hopefully we can come up to something here that says,
Yeah, and Jim, we set this up as a multiple choice. So at this time we have 33% control, 71% efficiency, 33 presence, and 71 cost savings.
Wow, okay. So efficiency and cost savings are taking the higher of the two, and then equally we've got control and presence. Okay. All right, well, why don't we go ahead and move forward. Well, before I do, let me go back to that slide. Cost savings and efficiency are obviously ways that we pay for SIP. So I can absolutely see that being the primary business goal, because hey, we've got to pay for this stuff, right? This is all about becoming. We've got a very opportunistic economy right now, and we've got to take advantage of it. And if we don't take advantage of it, someone else will. So I can definitely see the value proposition if you chose cost savings and efficiency as being the two elements, goals that you see for SIP. I can definitely see that. But I also know that without proper control mechanisms and the waste associated to the way a lot of communications occur today, that those two could also assist, control and presence could also assist in eliminating expense, which again improves your efficiency, improves your bottom line. So thank you guys very much. Thank you all for that response. So if we look at this image at the top of the screen of this road going off into the horizon, and if the goal, if nirvana is we're trying to reach the point where we've got continuous business growth and innovation, right? That's how, by the way, that's how businesses thrive. An environment of continuous business growth and innovation. And by doing that, innovation feeds business growth, growth feeds innovation. So when you look at some of the most successful companies out there, they sort of self-perpetuate this environment of growth and innovation. If that's our goal, if that's where we're headed, then really how long do you see SIP being and these are questions. I'm just rattling these questions off. There's not really an answer here. This is not a full question. This is just questions I want you guys to have in your own minds as we move forward through these slides. What are my steps of getting closer to SIP and enabling SIP, and then what are the migration steps? So that's a lot of what I'm going to be covering today and helping you look at, okay, we've got all this tech now. I know what presence is. I know user agents. I know how SIP works. I know what ultimately you can do from a multi-vendor perspective. Great, all good. I know what the carriers offer. All good. Now, how do I get there? Right? I got all this information. Now, how do I get there? So that's really what this presentation is all about: is understanding what the future of intelligent communications is and how you can deliver that in, say, the next 2 to 5 years within your organization. So I love this slide only because I love one of the quotes in here. Hope is not an effective business plan. Neither is luck. I actually stole that from One of my favorite quotes. And you know what? I think it's an idea that we've got to make sure that we have a strategy and that we have a plan. We have to do this. These elements that I'm talking about are part of a journey that we're on to, again, make communications more efficient, right? So if we've got a plan, it's better to have a plan and know the direction than to just live off of the ROI. Now, understand, the return on investment is a fundamental part of all of this. And and when you talk to voice and data, you're going to get all of those key pieces that you're going to need to plug into your equation to show the return on that initial investment. But we also need a higher end strategy that again, growth feeds innovation, innovation feeds growth. So the innovation piece is SIP, the growth piece is what SIP can do from an efficiency perspective to business. So we've got to have that strategy in place. And again, SIP is only part of the total plan, right? SIP is one piece, but business process is a completely other element of this growth and innovation plan. So let's look at establishing SIP as a business strategy, and then we'll also look at it from I think a technological perspective. But let's say we have to communicate SIP from just a pure business perspective, non-technical, right? We want SIP to be seen as something more than technology. We would like it to be seen as a strategy. Well, SIP is about the ubiquitous exchange of business intelligence. Now, these are all business words. These aren't technical words, right? This is, SIP is a technical, it's an acronym, right? Session Initiation Protocol. But it is about the ubiquitous exchange of business intelligence. I want to be able to take information from one platform, one manufacturer, and exchange it or integrate it with another application from another manufacturer or vendor. I want to be able to do that. I want to ubiquitously exchange this information between platforms, vendors, operating systems, mobile, landline, you name it, right? That's a big part of what SIP brings to a business, is helping these silos of vendor content, vendor applications, helping them integrate and talk ubiquitously across a business environment. The other thing that it does, obviously, is promote efficiency and cost reduction. You're going to see that initially from the return on investment that you get from carrier deployments. You're going to see it with making more intelligent decisions regarding the calls that are being made, the communication sessions that you're trying to set up. But hopefully what you will see is an improvement and simplification of the transactions inside of business. So this is that operational piece. SIP is there to help you, instead of making your business work around your communications platform, SIP is really about wrapping your communications platform around business operations, about the transactions. Right? Interdepartmental transactions, yes. Business-to-consumer transactions, yes. Business-to-business transactions, yes. It's about improving and simplifying those and making this environment easier to manage, easier to control, simpler to configure, less costly to maintain. That's really if I'm putting together a business strategy for SIP, that's exactly what I'm going to be saying about SIP. And if we replace the word SIP in those three strategies and put your company's name in front of it, are these the values that are part of my company's strategic plan? Is, convergence readiness. Convergence readiness is about the ubiquitous exchange of business intelligence. Can you put your company's name in front of each one of these sentences and have it apply to a current business strategy inside of your organization? And again, a lot of companies have this formalized at a very high level. Owners and VPs have this that they can just spit off, at the drop of a hat, tell you all about what their companies are all about. But this is really kind of an interesting concept, to think that you can take a technological term and turn it into a business strategy. But in fact, you can't, because when you look at what SIP does, it does the same things that businesses are trying to accomplish. Become more efficient, become more cost competitive, become more simplified, make improvements to operational transactions, help business happen instead of hindering business from happening. Right? There's always that joke, right? This tool that I just got is more of a hindrance than it is a help, right? And we joke about it when we're inside of our organization. Well, SIP is here to clear that up. Give you the tools to help clear that up. But when you're selling a business strategy, it's different than selling tech, right? Because you want to, I guess the analogy that I want to use here is selling a particular car as opposed to selling, the strategy of personal transportation. Selling SIP is not selling a Camry, right? It's about selling economical, I don't want to say, I want to be careful here because a Camry isn't an SUV. So let's just call this type of strategy. Instead of selling, like Microsoft Link, I want to sell the strategy of desktop integration. So instead of selling a Camry, I want to sell economical personal transportation. Because I don't want to limit the decision just to Camry. Now SIP allows me the option of taking a Camry, take a Honda Civic, taking a Ford, I can't even think of a Ford economy car right now, but that's just terrible. But that's the kind of way that you sell SIP. When you're selling it as a strategy, you're not selling a thing, a particular thing. You're selling, an overarching theme, right? And the key to selling that is being able to articulate the end result, right? So the advantages of a Camry, you can list them off of a brochure. But the advantages of personal transportation is that you travel at your own schedule. It's point to point. You don't have to go to a bus stop and then walk to someplace else, right? There's a lot more privacy. There's a lot more control of your environment. So if I'm selling a Camry, I can only sell it on the benefits of what it offers, air conditioning, AM, FM, stereo, satellite, blah, blah, blah. But when I sell personal transportation, I'm not just limited to selling a Camry, because the value I get from personal transportation can be applied to other manufacturers' cars, other manufacturers' modes of transportation. You could even sell one of those, those electric things, those little moped-y things that you see everybody on. Any type of personal form of transportation. And so the key here, when you're selling SIP as a business strategy, try not to sell it as a tech, as a thing. Try to sell it as a strategy. And again, those strategies that I gave you in the previous slide hold true. SIP is about efficiency and cost reduction. Now, it is also about user agents and proxies and registrars, but if we get into that level of detail, we're going to lose the average business person. So to keep them in the game, we're going to talk to them about, instead of just talking to them about a Camry, we're going to talk to them about personal modes of transportation. All right? So that's I believe the value, and I appreciate you putting up with me on this one, because selling strategies they're a unique form of business elements. I teach and train people on how to sell strategies upward inside of an organization, and I could probably do a whole day session just on that. But I tried to glean from that what we could take from this on SIP and help sell SIP not as session initiation protocol, but as an overarching strategy for business. And again, when you're selling a strategy, you're selling the end result. You're selling what it is about this, right? In the previous slide, I talked about the end result of personal transportation. It's your schedule. It's point to point. It's privacy. It's control. Well, you know what? The end result for SIP is greater decision accuracy, decreased operational expense, improved efficiency, greater control, greater security, and then a decrease in the dependency on other vendors. So if I'm selling SIP as a strategy, the picture I'm painting, that road leading to the horizon where it's continuous business growth and innovation, if I'm painting that picture, I'm going to use these words here. I'm going to be using decision accuracy. I'm going to be using decreased expense. I'm going to be using these terms because that's the value SIP brings to the table for business. So when you look at selling SIP and selling it as a business strategy, look at it from a strategic perspective. Look at it from a non-technical perspective. Right? We're all technologists here. We all have, value that we can bring to the table with the ones and the zeros associated to this tech. But the value proposition will be more clearly defined in a non-technical person's frame of reference if we use their words. So try to stay away from the shuns and the there's a lot of made-up words inside of technology. Try to stay away from those and start focusing on business-related terms. Paint the picture of where SIP can go. I have actually done a keynote address just on the ability of SIP to improve decision accuracy, and even the slightest improvement in decision accuracy throughout an organization can reap big rewards, and especially in the call center world. So if any of you guys are in the call center industry, just a slight improvement in decision accuracy in a call center can reap, hundreds of thousands of dollars in added business, added revenue to your bottom line. So we can go ad nauseum there. So and again, this is one of those questions. It's not necessary. There's no right or wrong answer here. I just want to make sure I understand which elements best describe the direction your business has today. Is your business primarily concerned with security? Is it all hands on deck? We've got to reduce costs. Is it, hey, look, we've got to get better at making decisions because we're not making enough of the right ones? Are you looking to get away from a single vendor solution because you want more options, more choice? There's a lot of vendors out there, and they all want you to be a single vendor solution, but the reality is you get to go to a single vendor solution. If I buy a Camry and I only buy that product, I'm only going to get the options they offer. I may not get a hybrid car, electric car. I may not have any other options other than what they offer me. So it may be good for me to have multiple vendors. Or is efficiency the game? Is it all about driving cost out of the bottom line? So Patty, I'll let us know how we're doing here. See if there's a clear winner here.
Yeah, the stats are reading 23%. Actually, let's give it another moment.
Okay.
25% improved security, 75% cost reduction, 25% decision accuracy, 6% more vendor choice, and 63% greater efficiency.
So there you go. Cost reduction and efficiency. Guess what, guys? I mean, we're following in lockstep with that previous poll. And that makes sense. I mean, again, if we were cost sensitive and efficiency sensitive on the previous poll, I would expect us to be the same here. So, you know what? I think that when you look at, if you go back to this previous slide talking about what you could use from a strategy perspective, then obviously you're going to want to decrease in operational expense. You're going to want improved efficiency. You're going to want and maybe not as concerned over the dependency on vendors and decision accuracy. So you know what? There you go. Now you've got the 2 or 3 elements here that you can help paint the picture of the value of SIP within your organization. All right. So if we're aligning this to, so we've now got a strategy. Now we got to align the strategy to a business priority. And if the business priority is profitability, which is what I'm hearing, then the goal is to tie the success of that profitability to session initiation protocol. And to do that, session initiation protocol makes it easier to connect sellers to buyers. It does that less costly and more simply than traditional technologies. And it also helps reduce cost. So if I'm growing revenue and reducing cost, by being more efficient and controlling cost, I am going to be simultaneously making the company more profitable. Again, that whole Lee Iacocca thing, right? Which would you rather be, more efficient or would you have more revenue? Well, I'd rather be both. I'd rather have more revenue and more efficient, and be more efficient, because I'm going to then have exponential growth in business. See, companies that just focus on profitability, saying, hey, I'm just going to grow revenue to become more profitable, and they don't account for the operational cost, your operational expense grows when you grow sales, so you don't get as much margin. And so, again, the whole idea here, take SIP and align it to business priorities. And if the business priority is profitability, then boom, tie it to those two key elements. If it's about efficiency and control, then you talk about, well, actually it's not about security. It's not about control. I wish I had that better slide now. But when you do talk about decision accuracy and security, then you can assist in helping businesses provide an element of control of the network. And I know that that's not as much of an issue with everyone on this call, but it has been in the past to some of the other participants that I've given this presentation to. So my apologies there for not aligning it quickly enough. So note to self, I got to make sure I'm a little bit quicker on the draw here, because I do have a slide on that. I just don't have it lined up for us today. But again, the whole idea here is giving us that prioritization and aligning SIP to those business priorities is a key element here. So, last question here: which business priority connects SIP to risk mitigation? Which of these two business priorities connects SIP to risk mitigation? And again, knowing very well that that wasn't your top priority here, but if we look at SIP from a risk perspective, which business priority? And I haven't given you a whole lot of choice here, so it's going to be 50-50. So you can flip a coin if you don't know, but I think it's pretty obvious when you look at the word risk, which word more associates to risk, and you can get your answers there. So Patty, I'll let you go through this. This one should be pretty simple though.
Yeah, we have 90+ stating control.
Yeah. So I threw you a softball there, guys. So the whole idea here is let's put it into a picture. Let's put it into context here. What we're really talking about is a SIP environment where I'm utilizing SIP to communicate to traditional and non-traditional IP components. So the two elements that I want to leave you with today, because I think it'll lead into some further discussion and some next segment sort of things for us here. The two elements that play a critical role in large-scale enterprise when it comes to SIP is an element called a session border controller. That's the element at the very top. A session border controller is basically a router for SIP. And then a session manager. And a session manager plays the role of assisting in creating the rules as to who gets what and how that user agent gets promoted and not promoted. So if you look to the right, all of the applications that are here, messaging, collaboration, the telephone feature server, these are the applications that everyone has access to. The session manager is basically there as a rules engine to connect people to the right app that they're looking for. But a session border controller is actually that device that protects that SIP environment from outside intrusion, from people snooping, that kind of thing. It's a higher level filter, if you will, of the network. But those are two key elements that we're going to talk about. But this is a topographical picture. This gives us an idea of how all of these elements play. The instant messaging server unification clients. That could be Microsoft Link, what have you. You've got gateway technology to older tech, to older time division multiplexing sort of telephone switches, voice PBXs, gateways out to other public switched environment like fax lines and that type of stuff. So that's really, if you're a large-scale enterprise, and this actually came from Gartner, and I left the link up there. So if you guys wanted to go back into that Gartner link, I think Gartner's actually just about to produce an update for this. I think they only do it once a year, but I believe it should be soon. So you should be able to get more detail regarding what the future looks like from a graphical perspective for SIP. And then in the small business environment, their session management sort of goes away because there's not enough components out there that are necessary to be managed. So the session border controller sort of acts as not only the filter, but also acts as that rules engine simultaneously. So there's a number of different manufacturers who provide session border controlling with inclusive session management elements. And then there are manufacturers that separate the two. And the difference between those two elements is just really how much volume do we have going on here. So really the whole value proposition for our next discussion is, when do I need, what is a session border controller, when do I need it, why do I need it, how much does it cost? We're going to get into some of those elements because, again, when you're talking about delivering presence and user agents, it talks at a much higher level than most of the applications that you currently have, like Word, email, your internet browsing. All that is done at a much lower layer in the technology stack than unification and some of the SIP elements. They talk at a much higher level, and therefore you're going to need, especially if you're in like a retail industry where you've got PCI DSS regulatory concerns, you've got HIPAA regulatory concerns, that type of thing, you're going to need a session border controller to show compliancy. So again, a session border controller really acts as a security element, and then session management applies the rules. So I think we're at the 11:40 mark. I will again say thank you guys very much. Hopefully this information can then show you now how to take the elements of SIP, apply them to business operations, business integration, create a strategy, align that strategy to a business priority, and get SIP enabled within the next 2 years. Sooner, hopefully, better than later, because we want to start taking advantage of the return on investment as quickly as we can and get that cost savings going. So with this, I will say thank you. I'll hand the ball back over to you, Patty and Joe, and let you guys finish up.
Thank you very much, Jim, and thank you all for joining us, taking the time out today. There is a parting questionnaire which will show after you exit the webinar that we would appreciate your response. And if you'd like to discuss this topic or any other, please contact your account executive, or if you don't yet have an account executive assigned, the last slide there shows you our contact information. And Thursday, I will email you an overview of this webinar along with a link to the recorded webinar and a link to register for Part 6, Making the Business Case for SIP, which will be held on Tuesday, October 25th, also at 10 a.m. Central Time. Thanks again, folks. Have a great day.